Hello and welcome to the Radiate Fitness Podcast with me, your host, Amanda Reedy, mum of two, personal trainer, nutrition and weight management advisor, PE teacher and lifelong happiness advocate. This is a podcast for you, the busy mum, where we'll talk about ways to prioritise your own fitness, health and happiness, because if you feel great, you thrive, and so does your family. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. This week I am going to be talking about my exercise routine and why I do what I do on a weekly basis. So a few episodes ago I spoke about where to start, what exercise you can do, how to either return to exercise after a break or after having a baby, or just if you've never really exercised regularly before, where to begin. This week, I am going to tell you and explain what I do on a weekly basis. So the routine that I do is something that I've worked up to. So it's not something which is suitable for a beginner if you're just starting out, but it's just an example of what I have chosen, how I program my weekly workouts, and why I focus on the key areas that I do. So when you're exercising, there's a term called progressive overload, and this is something that should be applied within your training programs. So what this basically means is that over time, you increase the rate at which your body is working. You train harder, more gradually, which allows your body to adapt and to get stronger, but you do it progressively, as it states in the idea, so that you avoid injury and you avoid burning yourself out or working too hard. So for example, if you have a goal to run a marathon, but you have never run before, and on day one you think, right, I'm just going to run those 26 miles and that's it. Firstly, if you can do that, that is quite incredible, but realistically it's very unlikely and it can be quite dangerous because your body has not adapted gradually to the demands that are placed upon it for doing that goal. So it's like saying if you have never exercised and you start exercising 7 days a week, off the bat, that is not good for your body. You have to kind of like gradually introduce it, dip your toe in the water before you dive in. So I have built up my exercise routine over time and I will tell you why. So I became a personal trainer after suffering a back injury during COVID. And the reason I injured myself was because I was basically over-exercising. I was exercising every day and the activities that I was doing were just not suitable for the level of fitness that I had at that current time. So after suffering from this injury, I vowed to myself that I was never going to experience an injury like that again. So what I decided to do was I wanted to learn all I could to train effectively, to become stronger and fitter, and to support my body much, much better, particularly after having children. So when COVID happened, I had both of my children. My eldest was 2, maybe 3, and my youngest was still a baby. And so I was coming back from having a baby, from not being very, very fit, because obviously during pregnancy you can keep a good level of fitness, but your body has been through so much and there are so many different changes that I had clearly gone back to exercise at an extreme level, which was not suitable for the level of fitness I had at that time. Also, as a result of being pregnant and having children, I had problems with weak pelvic floor muscles. I needed to address those, and I have addressed those, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to learn more about this and how you can look after your pelvic floor muscles and your core to be able to be as strong as you possibly can and to live a life that you want to lead free of concern or worry that something is going to happen. And really, after the experience that I had through my pregnancies and being postnatal, I wanted to try and help as many women as possible to be in a position where they felt strong and able to do whatever they wanted to do without kind of like worry or concern that their body isn't in the shape that they want it to be. If that makes sense. So I really think that core strength, particularly linked to the pelvic floor muscles, is a problem which is really, really common amongst women, but sometimes really underreported. So from talking with many of my friends, a lot of mums have experienced poor pelvic floor strength, poor core strength, from being pregnant and from giving birth. But instead of actually addressing it and doing something about it, most people just tend to live with it and just think, oh wow, this is something that I have to deal with. I did for many years. So my eldest is 7 now, my youngest is 5. And for a long time, I just kind of thought, oh well, my pelvic floors aren't what they used to be. I'm just going to make do and kind of like get on with it. So it went on and it went on. And I just got to a point where I was like, I've had enough. I've had enough of being worried that if I sneeze or I cough or I laugh that I might leak. Or if as a teacher you have to shout, obviously I'm PE teacher, so I'm outside, I have to shout across a field. I was also a bit fearful that shouting might put pressure on my muscles and cause a problem. So I got to a point and I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I decided to address my pelvic floor and core weakness and sort it out, because it is actually really, really important. It's important for a feeling of confidence. It's important for just feeling free to do whatever you want, whether it's just like chase your kids around the garden or whether it's picking up a heavy shopping bag, whatever it might be. This can be really impacted if you do not have a decent base level of core strength and pelvic floor strength. So what I did firstly was I actually kind of sought help from a specialist, and I signed up to a program which is run by a lady called Julie Baird, who runs the company Our Fit Family Life. And she is a specialist in pre and postnatal kind of core rehabilitation, and also not just rehabilitation but exercises as well. Her courses are really, really good, and I followed her, I think it's called Better Body After Baby course, which really, really helped me to repair my pelvic floor strength, my core strength. And this program that I did was a 6-week program, and I was really quite militant with it. I stopped doing any kind of other exercise. I walked, but I didn't run or I didn't do any weights. I didn't do anything. I just completely focused on improving my core strength and my pelvic floor muscles. And it worked. It was 6 weeks, and it's quite labor intensive because it's exercising or doing these workouts every day. When I say workouts, however, and I know a minute ago I said as a beginner you don't want to go from doing nothing to 7 days a week of training, but it does depend on what you're doing. So this core strength program, for example, was really steady and very, very gradual. So you had to do something every day for 6 days of the week, and then I think on a Sunday you did like a meditation. But it was really gradual. It starts off really gently with a lot of focus on breathing. And then she builds into this program exercises that build up across the 6 weeks and different movements to enable you to rebuild, to re-strengthen, and to regain core and pelvic strength, which then sets you up for pretty much doing anything else. So doing something like that on a daily basis is very different from if you went out for a run every day for 7 days after not doing anything. So please take my words in saying like you should not exercise every day if you're a beginner, but there are certain ways of going about it. And again, this is linked to progressive overload and building up gradually over time. So that is one thing that I started with, and this is on my progress and on the path to where I am right now. So now I can run, I can cough, I can sneeze, and I don't have any fear. And I actually really think it has really revolutionized my life. And I'm so grateful that I did it and put the time and the effort and the money into doing that course, because now I feel much more confident on a daily basis and less scared or less thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to sneeze, I need to like sit down or cross my legs or something like that. I'm sure that many of you can relate. The second thing, which has kind of underpinned my program, which I now follow, is the rehab that I did with my physio after getting a bulging disc in my back through over-exercising. So the physio really concentrated again on core strength and building up those core muscles of your abdominals, your glutes, and those muscles along your spine to ensure that your body is supported as best as it possibly can be, so that when you move, and I'm not just talking about like moving in a physical activity, exercising kind of way. I'm talking about picking up your children, taking in the shopping from the car, moving things around in your house with ease, and just you can do it and it's not a problem. So all of this core strength work is crucial to allowing you to do fundamental, normalized activities of daily life. So all of those just movements that you do without thinking, even to a point of unloading the dishwasher. I remember when I had the problem with my back, finding unloading the dishwasher terribly excruciating. I had to kneel in a certain way. I had to make sure that my back was straight in order just to get a plate out of the dishwasher. So it's thinking about it really, all these experiences have really got me thinking about how I move and how I can move in the best way possible, which is firstly natural and I don't have to worry about it, but most economical and puts my body at the least risk from hurting myself. Like I remember talking to my physio and he was saying that what he hears quite a lot from people with back problems is they get a twinge in their back when they're doing something really innocuous, like changing the bedding on the bed, or just, for example, lifting up an arm to get a cup out of a cupboard. So it's these activities that you want to do freely without even thinking about it or worrying what might happen. And that is so important. And that is why, for me, having core strength is, for me, I would say the number one thing that you need to be able to build on top of. That is your foundations for you to be able to do every other type of exercise out there. The next thing that I do on a regular basis is strength training. So current research, and it's really, really prominent, I think, at the moment on social media and talked about much, much more, especially now there is what I would maybe suggest as a menopausal movement. People are talking about menopause. But what I'm saying is at the moment, current research is really well documented about resistance training and its importance, and in particularly its importance for women who are 40 and over, coming into perimenopause, changes in the hormones which happen, and how our body composition changes during this time. So as we reach this age, our muscle strength can decrease, our bones and our joints become weaker, and this is all to do with our changes in hormones which happens through perimenopause. So strength training is a way of offsetting what happens here to enable you to stay strong, and even you can during this time, even though kind of you could say nature is against you, if you are training correctly and doing things like resistance training, you can actually build muscle and offset what your hormones are kind of not doing anymore, if you see what I mean. So this is what my weekly routine consists of, and this routine works for me. I've built up to it over time. This is not what I did straight after doing my like repairing my pelvic floors, for example, and this is not something that I went straight into after having a baby. This is where I am right now, and I've gradually increased what I do, whether it's on a daily basis or in time or in weight or whatever, over time. But this is my workout routine. So on a Monday, I do a full body resistance workout using dumbbells. I'll go into like the timing and how long it takes me to do each of these in a minute, but that is my Monday. On a Tuesday, I will do a 20-minute HIIT session, and I will do a 10-minute focused kind of core finisher. On a Wednesday, I do a focused upper body workout. On a Thursday, I do a 20-minute core workout, and I also go for a run for 25 minutes outside. On a Friday, I do a lower body centered workout. On a Saturday, I do a 25-minute yoga session, and I use Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. She's amazing, and I really, really enjoy her sessions that she puts together. On a Sunday, I consider that my rest day, so I won't do a workout or anything specific like that. But then throughout the week as well, we have got a dog. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my dog Polly, crazy sprocker. So I will take the dog out for a walk at least 3 times a week for about 45 minutes. And obviously, on top of all these things, I do walk at other times. I go and pick up the kids from school, take the kids to school, that is walking. Take the kids out at the weekend, so that I do lots of other bits and pieces as well. But what I have just explained is my kind of core routine that I do week in, week out. And if I don't get to do one of these things during 1 week, I don't fret about it. It doesn't matter, because I know that I am consistent for most of the time, most of the weeks during the year. This is what I do. If I'm on holiday, things will change. If we go away, which we don't do very often, but sometimes we might go away for a night to see my in-laws, for example, things will change. But I don't worry about it too much, because I know that I've put in the foundational work and I am consistent. And consistency is what gets you results. If you do something for a short amount of time, you might see a small improvement. If you stop doing it, after 4 to 6 weeks, things will start to taper off again and you will start regressing. But the great news is, even if you do stop exercising for a little while, your body remembers. There is evidence that shows your muscles remember. And if you start being consistent and training regularly again, you are likely to get that fitness level, or back to that fitness level again, fairly quickly. So all is not lost. But underlying under this is what I'm trying to say, is be kind to yourself. If things can't work out for whatever reason, don't worry too much. Just do the best you can and keep going. So why do I do all of this? Because I know saying it out loud and when it's written down on paper, it is a lot. However, I do this for many reasons. So the guidelines of what every single adult should be trying to achieve in a week are that we should all be doing 150 minutes per week of moderate physical activity and trying to do some kind of strength training 2 to 3 times per week per muscle group. So that's kind of like 2 strength training sessions a week if you're doing full body every time. These are the guidelines, and this is what's been shown to give a good level of health for a adult who kind of doesn't have any underlying medical issues. So obviously, if you've got medical issues that may allow you to do certain things or not to do certain things, you need to seek advice from your GP as to what you should do when you are exercising. But for somebody who doesn't have any underlying health issues or anything, any health issues, that is what everybody should be aiming for. So I broke this down a while back, but basically it's just over half an hour a day. And this could be something like walking or strength training, resistance training, going to a class, any of these things. But that is what the general guidelines are. So the way that I then do this, and I'll go into a little bit more detail, and to be honest, I say this out loud, I can't quite believe that I do this, but I've been doing this for over 18 months now, and for me, really, it's the only way to get it into my day. If someone said that I was doing this 5 years ago, I'd be like, I'm not doing that, you're crazy. But I do. This is what I do. So every day, I get up at 11 minutes past 5 in the morning. Don't know why 11 minutes past 5. 11 is my lucky number, so it just kind of works. But I get up early and I exercise, and I do it before everybody else gets up, because I know out of my whole day, that kind of hour and a half, I don't exercise for an hour and a half, but that time is uninterrupted. My children are still asleep, my husband's asleep, the dog's asleep. That is time which I know I can guarantee for myself. If I was to try and fit it in at any other time during the day or in the evening, it would not work. So this works for me. So I get up and I do it. And the reason that I do it is because it makes me feel good. It helps my mental health. It helps my well-being, and it really gives me a kind of way to release stress, to feel calm, to feel in control, and to allow me to be a better version of myself. So the reason that I program my workouts in the way that I did just describe is so that I fulfill a good level of different things. So I've got a good level of cardio fitness in there with my dog walking and running. Hanging out with the dog's quite good fun as well, so obviously that gives me an extra boost during the day, especially when she dives into the canal to terrorise the ducks. It's entertaining. I run for about 25 minutes, just once a week, and I really enjoy it. I used to run for a much longer amount of time, but I just can't fit it in. So I try and do workouts and exercise for an amount of time which is manageable and fits in with my life. So my workouts are generally about 45 minutes each time. This may sound quite long, but this does include warm-ups and cool-downs and stretching afterwards. And I think quite often when you see people advertising 20-minute workouts, their workouts are just the core element of it. It doesn't include a warm-up and it doesn't include a cool-down. And these are both essential to help you avoid injuries and to help your body recover better. So when people say this is a 20-minute workout or a half an hour workout, you could probably include a warm-up and a cool-down within that. But quite often that isn't the case, and you should be doing this warm-up and mobility stuff as well, because that is going to keep you flexible and it's going to help your body to recover better. So that's really, really important. My strength training I do 3 times a week, so that I work each main muscle group at least twice. But what I really focus on within my resistance work is core strength. So the exercises that I do are also linked to my core and to keeping that strong. And I also focus quite a lot on glutes because they can really help support all the movements that you do as well as helping you to maintain good posture. Because when you move with good posture and good alignment, it also reduces the risk of injury. I do a HIIT session once a week, which is, well, HIIT, if you don't know, stands for high intensity interval training. So it's doing periods of really hard work and then a short period of rest and then repeating using a different movement. The HIIT sessions I do, however, I try to minimize the impact because a lot of HIIT activities can be really bouncy, really jumpy, and put a lot of strain on your joints. This is not great, and it's definitely not suitable for beginners to exercise who don't have a good level of core strength or good strength in their body, because the impact of this kind of work can cause injury. And therefore, when I do my HIIT sessions, it is good to have impact activities because it helps the bone health of our bodies and our skeleton, and it's really, really good for cardiovascular health too. But it's really important that you know your limits. And I know for me, too much high impact stuff is not very good. It doesn't suit me, and I have got injured doing it before. So now I modify what I do within HIIT sessions to still be of high intensity, but the actual kind of bouncy exercises and activities that I do within it, I limit and I do in a better way, which I actually think is a better way to help with minimising risk of injury as well. My runs I go on, I've touched on them briefly already, but I run because I really enjoy it. I love going outside. I don't like running on a treadmill. I wouldn't do it. But going outside, particularly, and I know I'm a bit crazy again here, but doing it on a freezing cold day when it's really frosty and a little bit icy, obviously I don't want to slip over, but I like the crisp feeling of the air and how it makes me feel when I'm moving. It's really refreshing. And I really like being outside on my own in nature. Maybe I'm just running away from the chaos of my house for half an hour, but it does wonders for me. It makes me feel great, and that's why I do it. So, as I mentioned already, the core work underpins everything that I do, and I really try and focus on, even during resistance training and anything that I'm lifting, utilising my core effectively. So it's really important to focus on your breathing and active breathing by engaging and relaxing your pelvic floor muscles and your core in particular when you are working out. So It's all about breathing out on exertion, where you are drawing up the pelvic floors and drawing up your core muscles of your stomach and really like almost feeling like you're forcing the air out. And then when your muscles are relaxing, or when you're like working with gravity, the easier part per se of the movement, when you're not kind of like actually physically trying to lift or something like that, is when your muscles relax and you breathe out. So using breathing intentionally is really, really important when you're exercising. The other thing that I do on a daily basis is practice pelvic floor work through breathing. So every morning I will spend a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, breathing in and breathing out, engaging my pelvic floors and relaxing my pelvic floors. So when you breathe in, you should be trying to relax the pelvic floor muscles, and then when you breathe out, you are drawing up your pelvic floor muscles and drawing in your abs and expelling the air from your lungs. It's really important that your pelvic floor muscles relax and contract. And I know that sounds really strange, but I realised that actually I wasn't breathing properly. And quite often, if I breathed out like a really heavy, like breathe out like a sigh, quite often I would be pushing out my tummy and causing it to dome, so making it kind of like come out when I was breathing out. Whereas actually when you're breathing out, your tummy should be moving in and forcing the air out. And so now I have to really think about that. But I think that has really helped with kind of like the connection of my pelvic floors and my core, and helping to like rehab those so that they are stronger and they work more efficiently. So there we go. That is my routine and what I do on a weekly basis. And why am I so rigid about doing it in this way? Because I feel for myself it is important that I show up every day for me. It gives me a sense of time for myself. I want to be the best and fittest version of me that I can be for as long as possible. I've mentioned this before, I know, but I want to be able to pick up my kids physically. I want to be independent well into old age. I want to prevent and protect myself from injury and offset the aging process for as long as I possibly can. I want to be able to jump. I want to be able to dance. I want to be able to thrive and love my life and do exactly what I want to do without fear or those aches and those pains and that, like, when you push yourself up out of a chair and like, oh, getting up is hard. I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I want to be able to live a full life. I want to be a great role model for my kids. And I am really, really passionate about especially doing this for my daughter. I've got a real thing about girls and their place in sport and physical activity. And I still feel sad that today, in 2024, that the percentage of girls taking part in sport regularly compared to boys is much, much lower. And so I want to be that role model for the children that I teach, but also particularly my daughter. So she thinks, actually, it is good to do sport and physical activity. It is good for me. There is a place there for me, and it is fun and enjoyable, and I really want to do it. But mostly, I do this because I actually really enjoy exercising. I'm really lucky, and I know not everybody can say that, and not everybody does. And that's fine. But I still believe that if you are that person, it's because you have not found the thing that you really like to do. There is something out there for everyone. You can move in so many different ways. And I think it is important that you find what that is. Because the most important thing for me is by exercising regularly, my mental health is much better. Without exercise, I feel foggy, I feel stressed, and I am not a great version of myself, and I don't really like hanging out with me when I am like that. So that is why I do it. So this is my challenge for you this week. I've only got one suggestion today, and what I'd really love you to do is to ask yourself about your relationship with exercise. What is your routine? What might it be like? How does it affect your life? And is there any changes that you can make to make it that little bit better and for enabling yourself to let you be that little bit healthier? My routine is for me. It's not for everyone. I know what I need and it works for me. But it is this methodology that I use with my clients, which underpins the products that I have in my courses for my business. And it's basically what I think is really, really important for you to be the best version of yourself. So I hope you found this episode interesting, a little snapshot into my world and why I do what I do. Any comments, please leave below, and I hope you have a really great week.